Hello, everyone. It is so good to see you. We are here again for another Experience Investigators Ask Me Anything webinar. I am Jeannie Walters, and I'm thrilled that you can join us today. Today, we'll be talking about both reflection on the year and how to set intentions for the new year as well with a customer experience perspective. So we'll be talking about 10 questions to help you reflect and to plan for a brighter future. So, as you settle in here, we of course love to hear where you're joining us from. We know that this week is a little tough. A lot of you might already be gone on your holiday breaks, but if you are here joining us on either LinkedIn Live or YouTube, please feel free to let us know where you're joining us from. And for those of you who don't know me, I am Jeannie Walters, and I have started this business several years ago, but I've been in customer experience for about 20 years. And so if you ever want to reach out to me, these are all the various ways. But right now, I'm spending a lot of time doing a lot of virtual work with clients, training, workshops, things like that, as well as a lot of coaching. There are a lot of customer experience leaders and customer experience teams right now who are really taking that next step. They maybe have been established for a while, but are struggling with maybe centralizing or setting goals or things like that. So it's really a joy to work side by side with these organizations and help them set their own course around customer experience. So I'm doing a lot of that lately, as well as the usual, the keynote speaking, the workshops, the content, all those things. And as always, we have our friend and director of marketing here with us today, David Hornreich.
Hello,
David, how are
hello.
you?
I'm very well. I'm very happy to be here. It is the last live session we're doing of 2020.
It is. And your background looks different because this is the first time you've joined us from your brand new house. So you moved recently.
It's true. We moved recently, and the boxes aren't gone. They're just not in the office anymore. So that's a big plus. We've got shelves. The shelves are empty.
That'll
Um,
change though, right?
But that will change. There will be things in there one day. It's exciting to always have something new to look forward to. So
Yes.
things in shelves will be what we look forward to. And I did, as we promised 2 weeks ago, we promised that I would get a haircut. Here it is in all its glory.
Nice.
My wife did half of it. I did half of it. Not like a left-right split or anything. She just started it and then got nervous. But yeah, here we are with bookshelves and a new haircut
I
and
mean,
ready for 2021.
well, and that's exactly what happened here the first time that we did COVID cuts in the house. My husband asked me to cut his hair and then basically had to redo it because I was too scared to actually cut much off. So he's now doing his own. So maybe you've developed a new skill. I mean, there's that too. Lots of that going on right now.
Yeah, I don't know if I could cut anybody else's hair, but I'm getting pretty okay at my own.
Well, you know what? That's all we can ask for 2020.
Yeah, it's true.
Pretty okay.
It's true.
Yeah, and you mentioned that this is the last one. We do try to do these every week. That might be changing in the new year. We're kind of exploring different things, but you can still sign up for reminders by going to bit.ly/CX Weekly, and that way you'll always get notified when we actually have these events in the future as well. But I see we have some people joining us. Mark from Beirut this time. Wow. Welcome, Mark. Thanks for being here. And thanks to all of you. And how about we go ahead and get started? Because we've got a lot to cover today.
Got a lot to cover today, so let's get
do.
into it.
All right. Let's talk about these 10 questions. So here's what tends to happen. When we talk about goals, sometimes we talk about them in kind of these big, lofty ways. And if they're not really clearly defined, then what happens is we get a little stuck in the daily to-dos. And I'm sure many of you have had this experience. So I love this quote: "In the absence of clearly defined goals, we become strangely loyal to performing daily trivia until ultimately we become enslaved by it." I think a lot of us can relate to this. And when we look at customer experience specifically, we actually know that if we are not really focused on improving the customer experience, then a lot of things suffer, including our revenue and the market share. This is what 83% of 200 CX executives reported, that they believe that unimproved customer experience puts their revenue and market share at risk. And you have heard me say this before, but one of the keys of a successful customer experience program of any kind is defining success. Because if we don't do that, it's really easy to get lost in those day-to-day tasks and to miss opportunities around improving the overall organization as a whole. So, my question to you is, have you taken the time to do this? Have you taken the time to reflect on your customer experience progress and set your best intentions for the new year? We are at the end of a calendar year. This is a great time to do this, but there are other times that you may want to consider. Like if you are looking at quarterly goals, if you're wrapping up one quarter and going to the next, if you are about to embark on budgeting season, which I know many of us are just getting out of or even wrapping up for 2020 now. And any times that, there's change that just demands your attention. Anytime that you want to assess and evaluate your goals and adjust them, this is a great exercise to go through to see where you've been, what you've learned, and then also what intentions you can set for that new year and the goals that you have there. So the first half of this is about reflection. So these are the 5 questions that we'll be going through today. We're going to do this pretty quickly today, but I encourage you to use the resources that we have. We have a brand new tool to download that helps guide you through all 10 of these questions. So, and there we go. There's the link for it. So you can go ahead and find that there. Or, of course, you can sign up for the Year of CX, which is at yearofcx.com. And that way you can receive all of the free downloads that we're providing between now and the next CX day in 2021. So these are the 5 questions we're going to be going through. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the first one. So what was the top priority for your customer experience goals? And I love this question. And the reason I love this question is because a lot of times people say, I'm not sure what our priority was. And that is enlightening. That is a lesson. So if you're not sure about what your top priority was, that's something to really evaluate and try to correct for the future. And if you did know your top priority, did you meet it or not? And evaluate, do a little deconstruction. What went right? What went wrong? How could we have met it? Did we meet it? Can we bring those best practices elsewhere? All of those things. So it's a really great way to understand, are you setting the priorities the right way? And if so, are you meeting them? The next question, what was the best thing we heard from customers? And the phrasing of this is very intentional because sometimes I say, well, did we actually deliver for our customers? And everybody around the table says, oh, yeah, sure, of course, of course. But if you ask this question, this is more about a direct quote. What are the best things we heard? And then you'll hear those emotional responses. You'll hear things like, we saved our customers. They said that we saved them time. They said that we, really delivered in the time that they absolutely needed it, or our process brought them joy, or any of those things. And that's what is really important because we want to connect with that emotional thing. The other thing you'll hear sometimes is about specifics, employees, processes, things like that. Employees come up a lot because if customers tell you the greatest thing, a lot of times they name employees by name. That's another thing to look at. Are we delivering just these individual experiences based on the employee, or can we take what we learn from them and go ahead and put that into the customer journey in a more sustainable, consistent way? And, it's also a great opportunity to celebrate. So don't forget to celebrate with your team these wins that you had with customers. And then we want to flip that and ask, what was the best business outcome we achieved due to our work in customer experience? So that is a very important phrase too, because your business outcomes, maybe there were a lot of them that you achieved. You want to connect the dots back to what did we do in our customer experience work that led to these great business outcomes? What were the things that we either collaborated with different teams, had that cross-functional leadership, or maybe you invested in a customer experience improvement that led very directly to business wins, like fewer calls into your customer service center or increased retention, all of those things. You want to connect those dots and make sure that you're really looking at what is driving those business results in the best way in the work that you're doing. And then number 4, what was the worst thing we heard from customers? How did we earn this criticism? That's a hard one to answer, I know, but sometimes we have to be really deliberate about facing those hard truths and understanding what is it that led to all of these complaints? Did we do anything to change this? Because complaints are there as a gift. They are telling you, they are warning flags. They are telling you things that are broken or about to be broken in your customer's experience. So you want to make sure that you are really paying attention to what are they actually telling us? What have they said was the worst thing about their journey? And if a lot of customers are saying it, what did we do to earn this? What can we do about it? Those are the types of questions you want to ask regarding the complaints that you've heard. And then number 5, did we improve or change the customer's journey for the better? Now, this one I also love. This is kind of the bookend to that first question we asked. Because if you can't identify this, then that's a problem unto itself, too. That's a lesson for how to look at things for the future. So, really look at if we did this, what made that happen? And if we didn't do this, why not? And if we don't even know if we did this, what does that tell us? So, this is a great question to really spend some time um, asking, how well are we doing this? How well are we actually turning the insights that we're getting and the feedback into action that improves the customer journey? So all of these questions help you really look back and reflect and look for those lessons and understand what went right and what didn't go as right as we wanted. And, a pause for celebration, a pause for those lessons. And then we want to actually look ahead and we want to take 5 more questions and ask, how can we set the best intentions for our customers, our customer experience program, and our overall organization for the year? And so these next 5 questions, they're about looking ahead. So what is our top customer experience priority? What business outcomes would be worth celebrating? How do we want our customers to feel about their relationship with us? What challenges do we need to overcome, both internally and externally, to achieve more with our customers? And then how will we make our customers' journey more? And you can fill in the blank here, and we'll talk about that. So, the first question here, as we just looked back and asked ourselves, did we meet that top priority? Now we want to look ahead and ask, what is our top customer experience priority? And if you don't have this aligned with your customer experience mission and your customer experience success statement, it's a lot harder. The thing that I want you to think about is how can we prioritize in a way that is aligned with our customer experience mission and our customer experience success statement for the year? Because that will really help you get specific about the outcomes that you're looking for. And it will help make sure that everybody in your organization understands those priorities. Because maybe your CEO only talks about sales. And if you're talking about just retention, there could be conflict there. You want to make sure that you're aligning your goals in this way throughout your organization. So, what is our top customer experience priority? Get as clear on that as you can. Now, what business outcomes would be worth celebrating? And this, again, is phrased very intentionally. Ask yourself, instead of just what goals do we want to achieve or what do we want to check off, ask yourself what would really be something that the entire organization would get excited about? What would we feel amazing about at the end of the year? And connect with that because that can really help you figure out, what? It's not just about a higher NPS survey number, right? That's not what it's about. It's about we are going to deliver amazing experiences which drive our NPS in a certain way. Think about it in that emotional way, both for your organization and your customers, but still get specific here where you're talking about business outcomes. So, what would that higher NPS score do for you? Would it create more loyalty, retention, all of those things? Connect those dots here as well. But think about that the end of next year, what will you come to our webinar with and say, we just have to celebrate this and we're super happy. What would make you jazzed? That's really what you want to think about. And then number 3, how do we want our customers to feel about their relationship with us? So another way to think about this is, what will they say about our brand? And define what that looks like. Define what happens with customers because of your brand. So this isn't about the product. This is about what they do with your product, or what your service allows them to do in their real lives. Focus on those emotional connections again. What will they say about your brand, and what will they really be feeling? And what I love about this question specifically is, I've asked this question sometimes, and you can literally see people think, you know what? Right now, we're only focusing on kind of fixing the issues. This paints a more proactive picture. This is more about really designing the experience on your customer's behalf in a way that is meaningful, that I think everybody can get behind. So, this is a great question to ask your team as well. And then number 4, what challenges do we need to overcome, both internally and externally, to achieve more for our customers and our organization? So this is really about looking back and looking ahead and thinking, okay, what lessons did we learn? Where are those challenges, and what are we going to do about them? So we use that example in the reflection piece about, you might hear about specific employees who are doing a great job. Well, what about the challenges with other parts of the organization that maybe don't have those specific employees? Are there best practices that you can learn from that employee and apply them throughout the customer journey? This is a great time to ask those questions. So, thinking about what is it that we've got going on here. Now, I say internally as well, because sometimes, and I'm sure some of you have experienced this, sometimes it's because you're not communicating necessarily in the right way with cross-functional leadership. So you might be bringing them lots of customer insights, but nothing's happening because they don't see their role in it. Or you might be hearing about something that is a huge pain point for customers, but you don't feel like you have purview over that to do anything about it. Those are the types of things that it's really good to dig in and think, okay, if I had a magic wand, well, we would be communicating better. Well, I would be able to go to that department and say, this is what we're finding out, and I would love your help solving this problem. Really think through this in a can-do attitude instead of thinking about, well, those are just the challenges we have and we have to live within those limitations, because that's where the magic can happen about really making change for the coming year. So these are some of the common challenges we see in the types of situations that I just talked about. So are leaders communicating in ways to help connect the insights, just like we talked about? Are there clearly defined cross-functional teams? Do they understand what their roles are and what actions are required? Do customers have enough ways to share their feedback? And do we close the loop with them? Excuse me. This is a great time to ask that question. Good thing I have water. And is there transparency throughout your organization to customers regarding the whole ecosystem? This is an important one for B2B. We learned in 2020 how important the supply chain was to customer experience. Customers who had never thought about that before, they learned that this year when they couldn't find toilet paper on the shelves, right? They suddenly understood supply chain. With B2B, it's becoming more and more important to really share a lot more, to be authentic and transparent. If you are running into issues with customers who are saying, hey, I just need more visibility, what can you do to create that even outside of your organization, but in the ecosystem? It's more complex, but it's totally worth it. And then, are there basic steps in the customer journey that we all acknowledge are just rotten? I think we sometimes don't take the time to ask this question. It's huge. If you have people around the room and you're all nodding along saying, yeah, that's a terrible part of our customer journey, now is your time to ask yourself, okay, what can we do about it? And plan that into your projections for the year and your intentions for the year. And so finally, this question I love, because this comes down to, who are you as an organization and how do you want to show up for your customers? If you have stated that having an effortless experience is a top priority, then ask yourself, How will we make our customer's journey more effortless? How will we fill it with more joy? How will we create it in a way that speeds things up? Whatever your priorities are based on that customer experience mission and your customer experience success statement, that's what guides this question. Because sometimes we talk about those things and we never ask this question: how can we do that? So, this is a great time to think big, to innovate, to get very blue sky about this. If we had a magic wand, how would we do that? What would that look like? And then you can back up and figure out the process. Okay, we know that we want to do this for our customers. How can we actually do that in the coming year? Or what are the steps we'll take for progress? Because, I was not always into goal setting, but I have been lately. And part of what I love about it is that there's this, I think, I can't remember who said it, but there's a quote about, if you shoot for the moon, you'll at least land among the stars, meaning that you might not make this every time or perfectly, but going for it gets you there a lot faster than not, and it still makes progress. So progress is important, and it still happens even if you don't achieve all of these goals the first time. So these questions, they're not meant to solve every single issue, but they are designed to really help you think bigger about the customer experience that you offer, what you do inside your organization, and how to move forward with it. And I just want to acknowledge too that, this year, specifically 2020, I think we can all agree was a very unpredictable and challenging year. And we all know that we've been challenged, but we should remember that our customers have been challenged too. And so, as we look back on those reflection questions, I encourage you to put those in context as well. Same thing with setting goals for the year. We know that 2021 won't be exactly back to normal, right? We still have a lot of change in front of us, but setting goals that are big, they still help you move towards that. So, don't get too hung up in that as well. And then, of course, we have a resource for you this week. We've created this downloadable questionnaire that really helps you think through these different questions so that you can get to a place where you feel really solid about setting those goals for the year. So, I need some water. So, I'm going to throw it back to you guys and see what questions you have. Oh, David, you're on mute.
This is like a weekly thing now. I think it's good that the year is ending. We can just put the mute button behind us. I was going to say that I'll talk for a little while now, so you don't have to, but hard to do when you're on mute. I wanted to welcome Mario, who says hello from Milan. Mario, thank you for joining us. A great comment from Thais, who says the issue itself could be the lack of emotional connection. This is when we were talking about, how we actually being deliberate about how we want our customers to feel. So I love that. Thank you for that comment. And then we've got some comments and questions here. Jackson LOL'd at me.
That's perfect. That's the phrase of 2020.
When I'm looking back at what the worst comments that I heard were and how I earned that,
I love it.
I know that I earned this by being on mute. So I want to jump to this note from Mark. And honestly, I haven't read it yet. I don't know if it's a question or a comment. We're going to find out together. Mark says, gladly, most of the employees in the front are responsive to our CX work when we do awareness workshops, telling the story, CX goals, SLAs, etc. But there's always one or two small or a small group that have absolutely no concern about the customer experience. This is an impossible challenge. It is a question. What do you do to embark them?
This is a great and giant question in some ways, because I've run into this as well. There are groups who don't want to move towards a place where they're thinking more customer centrically than like product centrically. This is a huge thing in organizations that have been around for a while, that have been focused on the product, or they don't really see themselves as caring about the customer journey because they are focused so much on sales. So in my mind, it takes two things. It takes education, so just constant communication about what are we achieving as an organization? What are the results we are getting that benefit everybody in the organization based on customer experience? So that's where having that success statement, reporting out different pieces about the results and tying those things together to, you know what, we made this change. We were able to reduce expenses in our contact center. We were able to, retain a higher percentage of customers through the renewal process or whatever it is. But constantly repeating that and communicating about that is absolutely critical. So that's the education piece. The other piece, this is mindset work. This is about getting people to really understand things in their heads and their hearts. And so that's where, when we do workshops and things like that, one of the things that I always start with is, we understand that there are things happening here on the back end. Like, we understand there's baggage maybe between sales and marketing or whatever, but that's not what we're here about at all. Everything we're doing is about the customer. Every single thing we're doing. And so what that means is you start removing the layers of blame that happen in organizations. So when somebody like me comes in, I'm a third party. It kind of protects me a little bit from that stuff. So I can say, oh, you know what? The customers don't see that. If the internal stuff starts coming up, or if people start saying, well, that's not my job, the customer doesn't see that. And so reminding them that, you know what, that's not really what we're here for. We're here for the customer. And it can be a very slow process. And I'll be honest, sometimes the wrong people are on the bus, right? Like, sometimes we have people who have decided that this is not for them, that they are a product guy and they're a salesperson and that's what they do. And so they don't have to worry about the rest of the customer journey. And they might not be the right person. And that's a hard thing, I know, in many organizations, because if the culture is shifting and people aren't keeping up with the culture, that can be really painful. But that is something to consider, that maybe you just don't have the right people on the bus. So I would say do everything you can to help them see their business results as related to the customer experience, and then tie that back again and again with why you're doing this. What is the vision? What is that customer experience mission? And good luck.
I've unmuted myself. So we've got a follow-up question here. As we talk about having the right people or the wrong people on the bus, do we need to have everybody on board, especially when it comes to employee experience, or can we kind of leave some people behind and just acknowledge that not everybody's going to come along?
Another great question. I mean, anybody who's been here before has heard me say this, and it's a pretty common belief now in customer experience. The employee experience is basically the driver of customer experience. And so we have to make sure that our employee experience reflects the same values, the same mission that we have for our customers. And if that's not happening, then it's incongruent, right? And so people will feel like, well, this isn't really authentic, or I don't need to worry about this because my boss said this. Or so I think that, when we talk about these different objectives, KPIs, OKRs, whatever you want to call them, when we talk about these things, it's really important to consider, are we empowering our employees to actually live up to these things? Are we making sure that we are supporting the employee experience in the right way? And going back to, like, are the right people on board? When you look at your employee experience, are you hiring for people who care about customer experience? Are you are you creating job postings that help people identify with the values and say, that's where I want to work because that aligns with my personal values too? All of those pieces of the employee journey are super critical to making sure that you're getting the right people in, and then communicating about the customer experience mission, communicating about all of these things, these goals and these questions, inviting the right people in so that they feel empowered and they feel like they are part of this discussion. Because I think sometimes the people who say, this doesn't really apply to me, we've never really invited them into the discussion. I mean, I talk a lot about invoicing and how important that is to the customer experience. That is a huge touch point in the customer experience that is often seen as, well, we'll give it to accounts payable or accounts receivable or accounting or whatever. And it's like we push it off and we never think about it. And so they feel like their job is to collect money. They don't see their job as part of the customer journey unless we invite them into the conversation. Same thing with HR. We often leave them out of these conversations. We leave our supply chain partners out, but they are part of the customer experience. We have to really start having these cross-functional teams and conversations so that we can continue to develop the journey in the right way on behalf of our customers, but we need to make sure that we're inviting people into those conversations more than ever. And I think I took a really weird way to get to an answer, so I hope I answered.
That's the best way to get to an answer, though. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey.
Oh, nice. Nicely done.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? I want to highlight a comment from Jackson that he made much earlier, but it completely ties in with everything that we've been talking about. Love how all of this deeply impacts culture and their ability to create vulnerability based on trust internally. This employee experience will make customers feel so much more comfortable when less than ideal experiences arise.
Well, Jackson just summarized what I said in a way longer way. So thank you for that, Jackson, because no, I totally agree. And I love that you mentioned trust because I think that's so important. If you don't have trust internally, then how can you ask customers to trust you? That will come out into the customer experience. So great point.
Yeah, that was the direct path. You took the winding path, and then Jackson showed us the quick path.
Mm-hmm.
Another comment from Jackson that I want to. He is just typing up a storm today. Thank you, Jackson. He says, for example, if you have a billing issue internally, that's not only going to cause stress on your customers, it'll ultimately return and become your employee experience as well, degrading the satisfaction of both pillars and the overall business in more ways than one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that we are getting to the point where kind of the industry overall, the profession overall has matured a lot. And so now there are leaders out there that are really trying to push this boulder up the hill. And so instead of being kind of relegated off to the side or seen as a customer support issue or something like that, people are really taking in that the customer journey is about so much more than just the key transactions that we think about. It's about every single interaction, every single touch point, and what experience are we creating for them. And the only way to do that is to create that culture of trust inside the organization too.
I want to bring up a question that came in through email. We've had these questions posted on the Experience Investigators website for a couple weeks now, and we got an email asking about a little bit of a logistical question. They asked, what's the best format for actually working through these questions? Who should participate? We kind of touched on that. How much time should we spend on each question? And what should we do with our answers once they've been recorded?
Wow, that's a great question. So the way that I've used these questions in the past, it does, you guys, somebody has to ask me a question where I answer, it depends at least once, and this is it. So it depends on the size of your organization and a whole bunch of other things. But the way that I like to use these is we have a session just about reflection. And the reason that we do that is because it keeps you kind of honest about what really did happen this year. And what I like to do is actually, have a team. Sometimes it's the customer experience team. Sometimes it's a cross-functional team. I think it's much more effective as a cross-functional team. Sometimes that's just harder logistically to do. So we have a team, and then I will reach out individually to people and say, this is your question. I want you to really think about this question. So if you have somebody who's responsible for customer insights or voice of the customer, they might have some really great insights about those questions about what did customers say or what complaints did we hear over and over. So inviting them to really own that question and look into it and make sure they come to the meeting prepared is a great way to go. So breaking it out that way, it helps people feel a little ownership. It helps people really take it seriously. And then when you come together, you're still addressing these as a group, but you're not necessarily trying to find the data in that moment. Somebody has already done that kind of homework for you. So that's a great way to do the reflection piece. Then we do the same thing, but on a separate day, like thinking differently for that intention piece. So you get all this information and you figure out the lessons from the year, and then you apply that when you are projecting out and when you are setting those intentions. And I think it's just a great way to involve people and also get people thinking about this in a bigger way. Um, there are two things I will warn you about. One is when people start getting bogged down in the data and they start setting goals just around the data. That's why I like those questions about what do you want people to feel? What do you want people to say? Because that gets like out of the headspace of we're going to increase things by, a certain percentage, because that's all very important and those goals are important, but you need to connect those with what are we really doing here? How are we showing up for our customers? So that's one warning. And the other warning is when people get too vague. So you have to kind of walk this line. And that's where you say things like, we are going to deliver an exceptional customer experience. That's our goal. Well, that doesn't really mean anything. You have to really define what does that look like. That last question about how can we make our customers' journey more effortless, joyful, whatever. That's another area where sometimes people want to say things like exceptional or better. And those words don't give you enough. You need to really connect with, okay, who are we? What's most important for our customers and our organization? And what are our priorities? And so you want to walk that line between getting too detailed, data centric, and getting too vague, fluffy, where you can't really define success. If you get to the end of the year, you want to be able to say, yes, we did make this more effortless. And we know that because we actually used customer effort score and we got better scores, or we know that because our calls went down to the contact center, or that's what people said, so finding out ways to measure that success. The only way to do that is to be specific enough, but you also don't want to get so data centric that you're not connecting with that emotional side of the experience too. As far as how much time and things like that, I like keeping this pretty speedy because otherwise it's really easy to get bogged down in the weeds. So maybe you give everybody a week to tackle one of their questions. You come together in, a 2 to 3 hour session maybe, and depending on how many people are in the room and your goals, and then you do it again the next week, but you keep it kind of fast paced and keep the momentum going. That keeps people engaged and keeps us away from getting too bogged down as we address these things.
Having flashbacks to my 8th grade creative writing class, being told, great is not, it doesn't mean anything. You can't just describe everything as great.
That's right.
But it's true.
It's true.
If you've got another question, please type it in the comments or the chat. I'm going to jump to one more that came in from email, and I hope that this doesn't apply to too many people who are watching right now. But a question came in asking, what would you say to someone whose leadership says, we spent lots of resources planning at the end of 2019, then 2020 happened. So to try to plan for 2021 would be a waste.
Oh boy. There's like a therapy session in there. But I think we can agree 2020 was not what we expected. And there is something to that. Like part of this is saying, you know what, we didn't meet our goals. We didn't do this. That's okay. I'm a big believer that if you set a goal and if you set a big goal, even if you don't get there, you still make more progress toward it by setting it and going for it. So if we don't meet all these lofty goals that we set for 2020, what did we do? Well, did we respond to customers? Did we pivot in a way that was powerful? Were we delivering to them when they needed us most? I would say evaluate these questions with that lens for 2020, because there are still lessons in there. There are still celebrations in there, and there are still things that you can apply to the future to continue to improve customer experience. And then looking ahead to 2021, maybe we know that, we are not going to be able to be in person together until, I don't know, maybe third quarter, second quarter. And so looking at it with that lens, you can still set great goals about what you're trying to do, but maybe you don't make them quite as lofty as you have in the past. Or maybe you are looking at, how can we make our digital experience exceptionally effortless for our customers, or easier for a certain segment to use, or anything like that. So there are definitely ways to define goals within the context of real life. But I encourage you to think about those big goals at least, and make one or two that feel out of reach, because there's something about that really gets people to work harder for it, and to understand what all of this effort that we're putting in is worth. And so I encourage you to think about one or two big goals that feel a little out of reach for your customer experience, because you might surprise yourself, which is pretty exciting. Yes, and there was our downloadable.
I'm just clicking on things.
It's the last one. We're going rogue here.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to highlight a couple comments that I really love. Also, in response to that question, Jackson says, plants are either growing or dying. We're not immune to this universal truth. 2020 was a year of growth. Don't let it seal your coffin.
I love that. Plants are either growing or dying. We're all growing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then I like this one. This is from Julie. How much worse would 2020 have been if we hadn't planned in 2019?
That's perfect. That's a perfect response.
Yep.
Yes. It's so true.
Love it. So thank you, everybody. One more comment from Mark here, just thanking you, Jeannie, for all of the positiveness. And Jeannie, I'm sure that you have plenty of thanks that you want to give out. I'm going to jump ahead of you and just say, we started these live sessions in, I think, May of this year. Mm-hmm. And it has just been an incredible experience for both of us, watching the community grow, watching so many of you show up every week and share your thoughts and insights and questions. And it's definitely not something that we necessarily expected or planned for in 2019, but it is a really positive thing that has come out of 2020. And I'm just really grateful for everybody who has been a part of it.
Well said. And yeah, thanks. I think it's been really special to get to know some of you through this opportunity. And yeah, like David said, we kind of started this with a wing and a prayer, just thinking that, maybe we can be a little helpful, if nothing else. And you guys showed up and shared in ways that were really inspiring. And I am just so encouraged by how many people are willing to keep showing up, to keep putting in the effort, to make sure that even on those days that have been challenging this year, that we are still, showing up for our customers, showing up for each other. That is super meaningful. And I think that shouldn't be overlooked. So anybody who has joined us this year has showed up and they've put in the effort. And I don't think we can underestimate how powerful that is. So thank you for being part of this community. And then a shout out to David, who has been just my right hand this year, and also really helped us with managing these and managing the community and everything else. So we couldn't do this without you. So thank you so much.
Couple more thank yous to wrap us up. Olatoye, you're here. Good to see you.
Oh, yeah.
He says thank you. And then the final word here, Thais. I've learned that with you, Jeannie, I can't put down in words my gratitude for the resources you provide for free for students like myself. Oh, thank you.
That's so sweet. You're going to make me get all emotional. That's very nice to hear. And our goal here is to really make sure that we are creating fewer ruined days for customers. That's our mission. And through you guys, we can do that. So that's really exciting for us. So thank you for helping us live that mission. All right, this is our last one for the year, but we always come back, right? So we'll come back.
Always come back.
So if you want those reminders, you can find those at bit.ly/CX Weekly. We do hope to see you in the new year. And if you haven't already signed up for a year of CX, we would love for you to do that as well. There are free resources every few weeks that we release there as well. And so if you're signed up for year of CX, you will get those. So that includes everything from the questionnaire to our customer experience success statement workbook, customer experience mission workbook, customer journey mapping workbook, and customer journey storyboarding template. We've got all sorts of things, and we've got more in the works for you next year as well. So definitely sign up for that. And for those of you who just want to stay connected even when we're not live, we have LinkedIn Learning courses as well. So feel free to look for those on LinkedIn Learning and hopefully learn more there as well. So thank you so much to everybody who has joined us, not just today, but throughout the year. We are honored that you're joining us. We know that you're going out and you're helping us live our mission of creating fewer ruined days for customers. We wish you all very, very happy holidays. Feel free to stay in touch. Make sure that you are, connected with us on all the various ways. We're on LinkedIn, Twitter, email, all of those things. So feel free to reach us there. And in the meantime, have a wonderful holiday season. Get some rest, take some breathers. I know we all need them, and enjoy, staying safe, staying healthy, and going into the new year with a great attitude about what's going to happen, because we're going to see great things next year. So thanks, everybody. Take care.